Understanding enlightenment from the Advaitic perspective is a journey into the depths of one of ancient India's most profound philosophical systems. Advaita Vedanta, a school of Hindu philosophy, teaches a non-dualistic view of reality, where the ultimate truth is the oneness of the individual soul, Atman, with the universal consciousness, Brahman. In Advaita, enlightenment is the realization of this fundamental oneness. It is not the acquisition of a new state or the transformation into something else. Rather, it's the recognition of a truth that has always been present. The enlightened individual comes to understand that the sense of individuality or separate self, the ego, is an illusion, Maya, and in reality there is no distinction between the self and the cosmos. This perspective posits that our usual experience of separation and individuality is a result of ignorance. The journey to enlightenment, therefore, involves the dispelling of this ignorance. Key to this process is the practice of self-inquiry, a deep and introspective questioning into the nature of the self. Through this, one seeks to transcend the layers of personal identity tied to the body, mind, and emotions, and arrive at the direct realization of the self as Brahman. The Advaitic concept of enlightenment is often illustrated using various metaphors. One common metaphor is the ocean and the wave, where individual souls are likened to waves in the ocean. While each wave appears distinct, they are, in essence, not separate from the ocean. Similarly, while individuals appear distinct, they are not separate from Brahman. Another key aspect of the Advaitic understanding of enlightenment is the notion of non-duality or Advaita itself. This means that there is no fundamental difference between the self and the universe, the observer and the observed, the seeker and the sought. All distinctions are seen as creations of the mind, and enlightenment is the recognition of the absence of these dualities. Enlightenment in Advaita Vedanta is also associated with a state of profound peace and serenity. It is described as a state beyond the fluctuations of the mind, where one rests in their true nature as pure consciousness. This state is characterized by a deep sense of fulfillment, contentment, and unity with all existence. However, reaching this state of enlightenment is not typically depicted as an easy or quick journey. It often requires rigorous spiritual discipline, ethical living, meditation, and the guidance of a knowledgeable teacher. The path to enlightenment in Advaita is a gradual process of shedding ignorance and realizing the self's true nature. In summary, from the Advaitic perspective, enlightenment is the realization of the non-dual nature of reality, where the individual self and the universal consciousness are one and the same. It's a state of deep understanding and peace, reached through self-inquiry, meditation, and spiritual discipline, leading to the dissolution of the illusion of separateness. In the philosophical traditions of ancient India, particularly in the context of Advaita Vedanta, the concept of individuality in enlightenment is explored with profound depth. Here, enlightenment is understood as the realization of one's true nature, which transcends the conventional notion of individuality. According to Advaita Vedanta, the sense of individuality or ego, often referred to as the ahamkara in Sanskrit, is seen as a product of ignorance. It's a mistaken identity wherein the self associates with the body, mind, and the various roles played in life. This individuality is not considered the true self, but rather a limited and transient expression of the self. In the state of enlightenment, this sense of individuality is transcended. The enlightened individual realizes that what they considered as their individual self, the body, mind, and ego, is not the ultimate reality. Instead, they come to understand that their true self is Brahman, the universal consciousness, which is infinite, eternal, and indivisible. This realization is often described as the experience of onness or non-duality, where the distinctions between self and other, observer and observed, dissolve. This doesn't mean that the enlightened person loses their personality or becomes inactive. On the contrary, they continue to engage with the world, but their actions stem from a deeper understanding of unity with all existence. Their actions are no longer driven by personal desires or ego-driven intentions, but are expressions of the universal consciousness. The journey to this realization typically involves a process of self-inquiry and meditation, where the seeker continually delves into the nature of their self, peeling away the layers of ego and misconception. This process leads to a detachment from the individual ego and a deepening identification with the universal self. In this state of enlightenment, the conventional boundaries of individuality are transcended, and one experiences a state of boundless awareness. The enlightened being sees themselves in all and all in themselves, reflecting the Upanishadic saying, Tat Tam Asi, meaning you are that, or you are one with the universe. This realization brings about a profound transformation in how one perceives and interacts with the world. The enlightened individual often exhibits qualities of compassion, equanimity, and wisdom, as their actions are no longer centered on personal gain, but are in harmony with the greater whole. In essence, the concept of individuality in enlightenment, in ancient Indian philosophy, is about transcending the limited sense of self and realizing one's identity with the universal consciousness. It's a journey from the illusion of separation to the truth of oneness, where the boundaries of individual ego dissolve in the light of universal awareness. In the spiritual traditions of ancient India, metaphors and language play a crucial role in conveying deep and often abstract spiritual concepts. These metaphors and linguistic tools are essential for bridging the gap between the ineffable nature of spiritual truths and the limitations of human language and understanding. One of the key challenges in spiritual communication is the intrinsic limitation of language. Words and concepts are typically grounded in the physical, observable world and are often inadequate to fully capture the subtleties of spiritual experiences or the profound truths of a reality that transcends the physical. To overcome this challenge, sages and spiritual teachers in ancient Indian traditions frequently employed metaphors, analogies, and symbolic language. For example, the metaphor of the ocean and the wave is commonly used in Advaita Vedanta to explain the concept of non-duality and the relationship between the individual self, Atman, and the universal consciousness, Brahman. In this metaphor, individual souls are likened to waves in the ocean. While each wave appears distinct, they are, in essence, not separate from the ocean. Similarly, while individuals appear distinct, they are not separate from Brahman. Another popular metaphor is that of space inside a pot, used to illustrate the idea of Brahman as all-pervading and unchanged by the forms it inhabits. The space inside the pot seems confined, but once the pot is broken, it becomes evident that the space inside and outside the pot is one and the same. This metaphor is used to convey the idea that the true self is not confined by the physical body or mind, and is, in reality, one with the infinite Brahman. The use of paradoxical statements or koans is also a feature in some spiritual teachings, particularly in the tradition of Zen Buddhism, which has roots in ancient Indian thought. These paradoxical statements are designed to jolt the mind out of its usual patterns of thinking and to provoke deeper introspection and insight. Language in the form of sacred mantras is another significant aspect. Mantras are not just words. They are considered vibrational manifestations of aspects of the divine or the universe. Chanting or meditating on these mantras is believed to have the power to transform consciousness and bring the practitioner closer to spiritual truths. Storytelling, through epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, and various Puranas, is another way spiritual concepts are conveyed. These stories, filled with gods, goddesses, heroes, and sages, are not just entertainment, but are imbued with symbolic meanings and moral and spiritual lessons. In essence, metaphors and language in ancient Indian spiritual traditions are not just tools for communication, but are integral to the process of understanding and realizing spiritual truths. They bridge the mundane and the sacred, helping seekers to grasp concepts that are beyond the ordinary scope of human experience and thought. From the perspective of ancient Indian spirituality, particularly in the non-dualistic schools like Advaita Vedanta, the nature of the universe is perceived quite differently when viewed from an enlightened standpoint. In this context, enlightenment involves realizing the ultimate truth about the self and the universe. In the enlightened viewpoint, the universe is not seen as a collection of separate, independent entities, but rather as a manifestation of a single underlying reality. This reality is Brahman, the absolute, unchanging essence that is the foundation of all existence. Brahman is often described as Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. From this perspective, the entire universe, with all its diversity and complexity, is essentially a play of one infinite consciousness. The idea of Maya, or illusion, is central to understanding the nature of the universe in this enlightened view. Maya is the force that creates the appearance of duality and multiplicity in the world. It's like a veil that obscures the true nature of Brahman, making the one appear as many. The physical world, with all its objects, beings, and phenomena, is seen as a transient, ever-changing reality, while Brahman remains constant and unchanging. In an enlightened state, the distinction between the observer and the observed, the self and the other, dissolves. The enlightened individual sees themselves in everything and everything in themselves. This is not a mere philosophical or intellectual understanding, but a direct, experiential realization. The sense of being a separate individual with a distinct personal identity is transcended, revealing a state of oneness with the entire universe. From this viewpoint, the activities and events of the world are seen as part of the cosmic play or Leela of Brahman. The enlightened being engages with the world, not from a place of personal desire or ego, but as an expression of this cosmic play. They act in the world, but their actions are rooted in a deep understanding of the unity and interconnectedness of all existence. Furthermore, the enlightened perspective reveals that the universe operates under the law of karma, the principle of cause and effect where every action has a corresponding reaction. However, in this state of realization, one transcends the binding effects of karma, understanding that their true nature is beyond the cycle of action and reaction, birth and death. In essence, from an enlightened viewpoint, the nature of the universe is seen as a manifestation of a single infinite consciousness. The appearance of diversity and duality is recognized as the play of Maya, and the ultimate reality is understood to be Brahman, the eternal, unchanging essence of all that is. This realization brings about a profound transformation in how one perceives and interacts with the world, leading to a life of deep insight, compassion, and harmony with the totality of existence. In the spiritual traditions of ancient India, the deep, unchanging peace of the enlightened state is a concept that is both profound and central to the understanding of spiritual attainment. This peace, often described in ancient texts and teachings, is not merely the absence of conflict or disturbance, but a profound and enduring state of being that transcends ordinary experiences of calmness or tranquility. Enlightenment, in these traditions, is characterized by the realization of one's true nature, which is beyond the transient and fluctuating aspects of the physical world. This true nature is often identified with Brahman, the ultimate reality that is infinite, eternal, and unchanging. In realizing one's identity with Brahman, an individual transcends the limitations and sufferings of the egoic self, discovering an inner peace that is unshakable and enduring. This peace is described as unchanging because it does not depend on external circumstances or internal emotional states. Unlike the fleeting moments of calmness that may arise from pleasant experiences or successful outcomes in life, the peace of enlightenment is inherent and ever-present. It is not something that is created or destroyed by the ups and downs of life, but rather a fundamental aspect of one's true nature. The enlightened state is also associated with a deep sense of unity and oneness with all of existence. This realization brings about a dissolution of the sense of separation between self and other, leading to a profound feeling of harmony and connectedness with the universe. This sense of onness contributes to the deep peace of enlightenment, as conflicts and struggles are often rooted in the illusion of separation and individuality. Furthermore, this state of peace is often described as being beyond the mind. In the journey towards enlightenment, one of the key practices is to transcend the usual patterns of the mind, with its constant stream of thoughts, desires, and fears. The mind, in its ordinary state, is a source of restlessness and dissatisfaction. However, in the state of enlightenment, the mind is transcended, revealing a peace that is beyond intellectual understanding or mental constructs. This unchanging peace is also associated with a sense of freedom from desires, fears, and the constant pursuit of fulfillment in external things. The enlightened individual realizes that true fulfillment and contentment come not from external sources, but from recognizing their inherent nature as pure consciousness. In essence, the deep, unchanging peace of the enlightened state in ancient Indian philosophy is a profound realization of one's true nature as infinite and eternal. It is a state of being that transcends the usual disturbances of the mind and the external world, characterized by a profound sense of unity, freedom, and inner tranquility that is constant and unshakable.